Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. So I'm a little nostalgic. This is our last service at the Viscardi Center. My goodness, it has been a crazy run. It's making me think about the earliest days. I remember when we first walked through here and we didn't think it was going to be possible that we would be able to use this as our space, and then that worked out, and then we got the ministry center on the other side, and that enabled us to sell our other building, and that enabled us to have the investment we needed to help pay the rent, and that all became the down payment for our new building. And so all of this whole season is sort of just like all welling up for me in this sort of moment of gratitude. And I remember the day when we had purchased, it was a huge sacrifice for our congregation at the time, purchased the whole portable rig, all of the pipe and drape and the screens and the road cases, and we had a consultant that was helping us do it. They did this for churches, and so we were just, answering their questions and paying the bills, and then a tractor trailer showed up with like 30 or 40 road cases, and they started like rolling out, and I thought, we are in way over our heads. There is no way we're going to be able to set up all of this stuff every week. But the roadies killed it. Can we hear it for the roadies? I was told by most all of our colleagues and many people around saying, this is what's going to make or break you. It's going to be the group of people who are setting it up and breaking it down, and they're going to fatigue. After a year, they're excited, and after 2, they're not. And after 3, they're quitting. And this group of people has made it happen. And also, there is a group of people that come in with the roadies. They set up all of the sound and all the tech. They actually have to get here before the band does. So can we hear it for all of the sound and tech folks who have made all of this possible? You guys have been absolutely amazing. All of the kind of back and forth and changes that have had to happen all the time. And of course, this is a band that hasn't been able to do midweek rehearsals because our equipment gets put up in boxes and then set up in the morning. So they've got one of the earliest call times of any worship team anywhere on the island. So let's give it up for the band who has just continued to make this a special time for us and really create turn this space for us into a place where we can really worship and we can meet God. And then, of course, if you have enjoyed the coffee or the kids programs or anything like that, there's a ton of volunteers who for all of these years has made that happen. Let's give a big thank you to all of those volunteers and everybody else who has just been really just sacrificing. And here's the really good news about having our building. The sacrifices will continue because that's the joy and the privilege of actually doing the work of the kingdom. And so I'm super excited to see how all of that is going to take place and unfold as we sort of move in. And it really does. It's like to me, all of you feel like such a gift to me. It feels like a giant Christmas gift. And so of course, I feel like the building has been God's Christmas gift to all of us. I'm actually delighted that there was a delay now. I wasn't back then. But now that there was the delay and now it happened all right around the Christmas season, I feel like God was just saying, I got something special for you for Christmas this year. And he gave us our new home. So I'm super excited about all of that. And I'm feeling a little bit merry, I got to tell you. And there's something about Merry Christmas that I really have always loved. You don't get Merry Birthday. You get a Happy Birthday, right? You also don't get Merry Easter. That would just be weird. Although with Easter, we really don't know what to say. But you don't get that. You get that with Christmas. There's merrymaking at Christmas time. And I absolutely love that it's Merry Christmas, because this is really a season for song and dance and good food and family and friends and celebrating and because it's a Merry Christmas. We should be making merry. And I think this is an absolute highlight of the year for followers of Jesus. I mean, Easter is sacred. It is absolutely profound. And there's something about Christmas that is like it, but also very, very different. There's something just so celebratory about the birth of the baby Jesus. the entrance of God into our world incarnate. A lot of our Christmas carols are songs about joy, right? Joy to the world, but you also get like Jingle Bells. It's about happiness, and Deck the Halls, and it's about throwing a party, and that's a big part of kind of our Christmas traditions, our heritage. You might say that we've picked up from the generations that have come before us. But one of my absolute favorite of all of the Christmas carols isn't exactly a carol. It's A Christmas Carol by Dickens. And I hope lots of you know it and spend time with it. My favorite rendition, my favorite interpretation of it is Jim Carrey's. I don't know if any of you remember this one. It was an animated version, and I was going to show some clips, but then they told me they were too scary and that you guys couldn't handle them, and so you're going to have to go watch it another time. But it's really it's a beautiful kind of, and actually Dickens, he called his little short story a carol because he wanted it to feel like merriment. Like he was making a song of Mary. But of course, his song is super happy and also super not in some ways. And it kind of gets you asking, well, what is really going on? Is Christmas merry or is it not merry? Is it really going to be filled with gifts and family and fun, or is it going to have some nighttime visits from ghosts? Like what's actually going to go? And if you think of some of your favorite movies, Christmas movies, Home Alone, that's dark. I mean, that's dark. Lost kid. They didn't even know he was missing. Oh my goodness. It sounds like a Jesus story. Remember when they lost him and it was like, oh, but you lost Jesus. You know, what you could think of, I mean, there's not Christmas Vacation, one of the most stressful Christmas movies you could ever watch, right? One of the most popular Christmas movies of all time. What's one of the most popular Christmas movies of all time? Oh, Die Hard. Thank you. Die Hard, of course, right? Like one of the most popular. And so it's like, you know, this is what the Christmas season brings. It's all of these kinds of sort of ideas. And yeah, the Dickens version, his interpretation was a little bit scary. But in it is all of this merrymaking, all of this incredible joy. And it's as if merrymaking is actually at the very center of the whole of the Christmas story. In actuality, I would argue, it's actually at the very center of the heart of God and of even following Jesus. And you can see it in the scriptures. We have Psalm 37. He says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." Delight yourself. You could actually, this verse and the authors that I have read over the years, it's been one of the single most transforming Bible verses in my entire life. I first came into contact with it through John Piper, Desiring God. I found it in C.S. Lewis and others as well. And this whole idea, it's been a transforming journey for me to realize that God is actually, he's not just telling me to be good, to go do good things. He's not just threatening me. He actually is commanding that I delight in him. He's going after my heart. He's going after my emotions. He's not content with simply convincing me that he's real, believing something in my head. He's like, no. Yeah, you should believe, absolutely. Yes, you should trust in all of that. But what I want from you is your delight in me. Delight. God, think about this. We think of God's commandments. Thou shalt not. God is commanding you to delight in him. Delight in him. Delight yourself in the Lord. And I like this piece because if you think of the Christmas story, Christmas Carol, you've got Marley, the old partner of Scrooge. He's dead. He comes and he visits as a ghost. Awesome scene, by the way. He's kind of scary. And we find out that he has been very in limbo. Let's not go after all the theology here. But he's been stuck in an in-between liminal state as a ghost, not able to ever rest. The decisions he made in his greedy life with his partner Scrooge have actually caused his heart and his eternity to be wretched, miserable, no rest, no peace. And in those moments, he's meeting Scrooge and he tells Scrooge, hey, bud, you're 7 years ahead of me now. This is what I forged in our lifetime. You've had 7 years more to build even heavier chains. But you have a choice to make. We find out that Marley's chains were actually a result of his extreme self-centeredness. You see, you could delight yourself in all sorts of things in this world. But the scriptures come back to us again and again and say, the human heart longs to make idols, to follow idols. It looks for something to worship. And if it does not worship God, it will worship something. Think about the very thing you fear the most losing. Your health, maybe it's that. Your future security, your financial security, the love of your life. These are the things the heart makes idols out of everything that it possibly can, and it clings to them, and it tries to extract ultimate delight. And the scriptures are saying, no. This was hanging out at Tikva before it became Beacon. I don't know exactly why. There was a lot of length of chain over there. But we found it, and now I get to use it here on Christmas Eve. But the way that's described by Dickens is that every single link in the chain is actually forged by decisions you make in your life. Now, I know it's a metaphor, all right? So let's not push the theology too far, but it's a really good metaphor. And many of you know exactly what this feels like. How decisions that you have made, self-centered decisions, have forged a chain that now binds you. The scriptures often talk about being set free, prisoners being set free. And Marley is all chained up, and he's telling Scrooge, this is what we're doing to ourselves. If, in fact, you are delighting yourself in anything other than the Lord, seek him first. That's what Jesus says. Seek him first, and everything else falls into its rightful place. So this is why the Christmas stories and the carols, they can be very, very happy, and they can also be scary. Because the refusal to put the Lord at the center of your affections actually damages your soul. It hurts your relationships. It pulls you away from your ultimate purpose in life. Why would we do that? Rather than just accept the promise of delighting ourselves in him. Now, he goes on in here, and he says, he will give you, God will give you the desires of your heart. Now, there are a lot of verses in the Bible are abused. I have been guilty of it. I have ripped verses out of context and made them do things they weren't meant to do. This has got to be one of the most abused verses in the whole of the Bible. Because what it feels like at first is you now largely get to follow God, and he's just going to give you anything you want. Whatever is in your heart's desire, unsanctified, unpurified, God will give you. Look, he promises. You want that job, you want that car, you want that person. God is going to give you the desires of your heart. No. The only way to actually understand this is to keep it in the context of delighting yourself in God. If, in fact, God is going to give you the desires of your heart, and you have already delighted yourself in God, then you're not actually going to be pursuing all of those. It's not like, sex, drugs, and country music. That's not the recipe for happiness, nor rock and roll for some of you that thought it should have been something different. It's just But if you're tying the desires of your heart to your actual delighting yourself in the Lord, then the Lord's like, yes, I will give you that and so much more. I will give you that and so much more. Now, in the Christmas Carol, Marley, this is a stage rendition of it, not nearly as good, again, as Jim Carrey's version, but he talks about this chain being forged by all of these self-centered acts. But he actually also says, why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down and never raise them to that blessed star, which led the wise men to a poor abode? Why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down and never raise them to that blessed star? And the scriptures are asking us this question. Will you raise your eyes to this blessed star? Will you raise your eyes? Because the whole idea of the birth of Jesus being marked by a star, a light in a dark sky, it's actually one more echo of one of the great themes of the whole Bible. The whole of the Bible actually does this. We actually can see it. The Star of Bethlehem is one more iteration of a theme of light that begins in Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and void, and darkness hovered over the surface, the deep. The Spirit of God hovered over the dark deep, and God said, let there be light. We're 3 verses into the Bible, and he's combating the darkness with light. And you could trace this theme now through all 66 books of the Bible over thousands of years, dozens and dozens of different authors, and you start to get a picture of this whole idea of what the light was all about. And each iteration of the light showing up it gives us one more beautiful picture. For instance, in the story of the Exodus, the nation of Israel, they were stuck in slavery in Egypt. In order to get out of Egypt, God had to do some pretty big stuff. Exodus, Red Sea, all sorts of miracles. One of those amazing miracles went on and on and on. It was a pillar of fire. We read it and we're like, well, what is that? It was a big part of the Israelite Exodus narrative. It only shows up a couple of times, but largely it was a pillar of fire that would light the night. And every time they were to go somewhere, God would lead them through this pillar of fire. It would sit, it would rest, and they would stay. And he was like, all right, guys, it's time to go. And the pillar of fire would move. Talk about not wanting to know what God's will is, where you should go, where you should live, what you should do next, what you should. Imagine if every time, you were looking, do I get a job? Should I go to what school? Is that the right person? And a pillar of fire just appeared over their head. That would be pretty wild. That's what the Israelites had access to, at least for part of their journey. Then later in the book of Chronicles, Solomon, the great king of Israel, is dedicating the temple. One of the most beautiful structures that had ever been built. And he prayed, and fire came down and rested upon the temple, rested upon the ark. The presence of God was with them, consuming, fearful and dreadful in some ways, but warm and beautiful and guiding in others. You fast forward, the prophet Isaiah, this is like 2,700 years ago. He said, arise, Jerusalem, let your light shine for all to see, for the glory of the Lord rises to shine on you. Darkness as black as night covers all the nations of the earth, but the glory of the Lord rises and appears over you. He's calling the whole of the nation. That Jerusalem becomes a symbol for the people of God here. And the light, let your light shine for all to see. A city on a hill. This is actually light is a huge part of Jewish identity, even to this day. We just celebrated, if you're Jewish, you just celebrated Hanukkah. So you've seen menorahs all over the towns right now. Well, it ended, I guess, Saturday or something like that. 8 days, 9 lights. Beautiful story about oil that was going to run out. They only had 1 day of oil, but the Maccabean revolt, it's a beautiful part of history, and it's a story of God miraculously providing light, oil for their lamp. By the way, I was invited because of our relationship, right, with the temple, to be a part of that menorah lighting over at Temple Tikva. And I might have told you guys, some of you this, but it was pretty neat. I was going to be there as just like the token Christian, I guess, to pray, and I thought it was pretty cool. But they couldn't get power to the menorah, and so the thing was starting. The event, and some dignitaries started showing up, like the local town folk. They couldn't get power to it because the outlet that it was plugged into wasn't working, and so I ran inside. I grabbed an extension cord, and I plugged it inside, and the lights worked. So I saved Hanukkah. I'm not saying I'm a Maccabean, but for at least 30 people, I saved day one of Hanukkah. Isaiah, he goes on, your heart will thrill with joy, for merchants from around the world will come to you. They will bring you the wealth of many lands. Vast caravans of camels will converge on you. The camels of Midian, Ephah, the people of Sheba will bring gold and frankincense. Oh, wait, now we're starting to get into some Christmas story stuff. Gold and frankincense, and will come worshiping the Lord. And so Isaiah is calling for this light that will shine. The whole of this text, by the way, in Isaiah and really most of the prophets, also speak about justice. When light comes, darkness flees. When darkness flees, sin flees with it. When sin flees, when sin is beaten back by the light, then justice happens for humanity. Then hungry people get fed, and lonely people find community, and prisons are emptied. This is the story of justice rolling on. This is a huge part of what it means to bring light. Darkness is the place where injustice grows and breeds and gets more and more vicious and vile. But the light dispenses with the darkness, and justice arises. And he's talking about all of this wealth. There's not going to be hungry people. There's not going to be homeless people. There's not going to be people who lack basic medical care. There's not going to be people who are being kicked out and oppressed anymore, because in fact there's going to be plenty to go around. That's what the whole of this section is talking about. There's a fantastic scene, again, back to Marley, where Scrooge tells him, remember, Marley's in his ghost form, and Scrooge says to him, but you were a great businessman. And Marley loses his mind because he's been reflecting on being a good businessman for the last 7 years of his dead state. And it's gotten him nothing. And he says, business, and he goes crazy. And he says, my business should have been people. However it is I made money, however it is I did stuff, but my business should have been mercy. It should have been compassion. Instead, I used it to collect resources for myself, to hoard, to build a war chest that I never actually, in death, will enjoy. I could have been investing in something else. We see this picked up by Matthew in the New Testament. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem. You can kind of see these themes. We're in Jerusalem. There are wise men who are coming into Jerusalem from the same part of the world that the Isaiah passage talked about, asking, where is the newborn king of the Jews? We saw his star, back to Isaiah's prophecy and many others, as it rose, and we have come to worship him. This is one of the great Christmas stories for us. The Magi are coming in. They're the wise people from the east, the wise men who know things somehow mysteriously. We don't quite get it, but they're reading the stars, and they see somehow something is out there that says, oh, we've got to go see this new king. Because this isn't just another king. This is a king that was foretold, that was going to make everything right. This isn't simply one more king in a long line of failed kings, but this This is the one that was supposed to be the last. He's going to be the one who will ultimately deal with the bigger issues of darkness that are in the human heart. The darkness that causes us to continue to sin and rebel and hurt each other. We saw his star. We have come to worship him. He goes on, when they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house. They saw the child with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and they worshiped him. Then they opened their treasure chests and they gave him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. The fulfillment of the prophecy in Isaiah 700 years earlier, coming to fruition at the birth of Jesus. Now you take all of these hints of light and fire, and you realize there's at least one more huge moment in the scriptures where this theme is going to carry over right into this new Jewish community who believed they had found the Messiah. It was after the death of Jesus. It was after his resurrection. It was actually during one of the Jewish festivals. And all of a sudden, as these new Jewish followers of Messiah are gathered together to worship, it says that a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven. It filled the whole house where they were sitting, and they saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit. In the same way that Solomon had dedicated the temple, and the fire of God had come to rest upon the ark, his presence, his spirit had filled the new temple. And in the same way, God's spirit, his fire, his pillar of fire, was now leading and guiding this brand new community, this ecclesia, the new people of God, the church. And the Spirit was filling them with light. The Spirit was giving us the ability to be the kinds of people that will bring light and hope and justice to a world that desperately needs it. You see, the call to delight ourselves in God, delight in the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart, is to be the kind of light that he was. He tells, God's light, it rests upon us. It leads us like it did for the nation of Israel. And then, of course, with his presence in us, we become the very light. We become the very temple that was to be a city on a hill, the holy city of Jerusalem. This is now you. I can't possibly imagine that anyone is making you a better offer than this. To be the light of the world, to be the very presence of God in people's life, to let your life shine in such a way that justice and mercy and compassion will mark you and encourage all of those around you. This is what it means to be the light of the world, to delight in the Lord. Let him give us the desires of our hearts, which is the desire of his heart, which is to be light to a world that so desperately needs it. Jesus himself, the light of the world, a light that he shares now with us through the power of the Holy Spirit. We get to memorialize that this evening. I'm going to ask that the band come out. And as is our normal traditions, we're going to do a candle lighting together. Now, you could let the candle just simply be lit. You could just be nervous about it, watch the children. You can also use these moments to allow God to speak to your heart. Maybe you haven't actually given your life over to Messiah. And he's calling you. He's calling you. He has been for 2,000 years. Maybe there's some bit of your own sin and your own rebellion that's keeping you far from him. And he's saying, come home. Let the power of the Spirit rest in you. Maybe you've just been sort of going by name as a Christian. Maybe you've just thought, yeah, I'm going to go and pursue everything on my own, do all my own stuff, build my own life in my own way, and then I'm going to add this little Christian thing because, just in case. That's a shame. There's so much more. He knows what the human heart needs. It was made for you. You have a God-sized hole in your heart, in your soul. And he is saying, come, delight yourself in me. Put me at the center of your affections. You could almost think of this as a gift that you actually get to offer back up to God himself. A heart surrendered to him. A heart that says, I'm going to follow you no matter what. I'm going to allow you to shape me, to change me. I want to delight in you every moment of every day. I want you to be the center of my affections. I want to be done with self-centeredness, self-will. As we light these candles, we're asking God to fulfill his promise to us, to let us be the light of the world, the power of the Spirit in us. I'm going to ask a couple of the ushers, you guys can come on up. And spread the light of Jesus to all.